Welcome to Beyond the Awards, a podcast from the British Wedding Film Festival. This is where we have honest conversations with filmmakers shaping wedding cinema, nominees, winners, and industry voices. I'm Joss.
And I'm Jeff, and as co-founders with Laura and Pete of the British Wedding Film Festival, we're excited to bring these conversations to you.
For this episode, we're joined by Katharine from KAS Films, winner of Breakthrough Filmmaker of the Year at this year's festival.
With around 3 years in the wedding industry, Katharine brings a documentary-style approach rooted in her background as a TV producer. Her discreet approach and commitment to genuine storytelling have helped her carve a distinct voice in an industry full of different filmmaking styles.
Today, we're talking about how she found her creative voice so early in her career and what success looks like beyond recognition. Katharine, welcome.
Hello, Cass. How are you? Good morning.
Good morning. Nice to see you guys.
You too.
Hello, Kaz.
Congratulations on your sweeping up the coveted Breakthrough Filmmaker of the Year. Well done. Very.
Thank you.
I mean, I've just been looking at the film that you got shortlisted for. Documentary? Was it documentary?
Yeah.
And for, what have you been doing this for? 2 years?
Yeah. Properly. Yeah. Because my third year, I did it as sort of a part-time with TV, just doing a couple, maybe one or two, just to dip my toes into it and see whether I was actually any good or enjoyed it. So.
Well, yeah, turns out you are. Because, that level, that polished look and that kind of like the ease of which, you could just watch that edit. It just flows. The pacing's perfect. The picture's like so crisp and clear and, without any kind of like sort of, over styling, and yeah, love it. Absolutely love it. So yeah, welcome to the podcast and very well done on the trophy.
Thank you so much. That means a lot coming from you guys.
Well, our first thoughts watching that particular film was it's very clean. And then we couldn't believe that you'd only been doing it for like 2 or 3 years. It's pretty bonkers, really. Also, fun fact, Kaz reached out to me before the podcast to share her second ever film. Love it, by the way, love it. If you watch my second ever film, it is shocking. Yours is already like...
Do not ask me
your
to show
standards
mine.
were... Exactly. Your standards were already pretty high, I think, Kaz.
That's very kind. I mean, for the amount I shot that day, it came down to, I think I got away with it because I shot so much. And also it really helped that they were such a lovely couple. And I think actually when I started out, there was so much freedom because it was people, I was working out if I wanted to do it. So in some ways there was no pressure, and the couples who'd booked me, they were paying so little. There were people who didn't really, they were umming and ahhing about whether to get a wedding film or not. So actually turning up on the day with one camera, I knew a few guests there. It was just actually so much easier in a weird way. There was no pressure. Whereas now when I'm getting bookings, I'm thinking, gosh, they expect something epic. And so thanks for watching.
You set the tone now, haven't you? Well, of course.
Yeah.
We will go through that together on the podcast, Kaz, your journey, how you create those films, and really interesting to kind of hear your thoughts on what that journey looks like in terms of like pure filmmaking craft and how you've evolved and what your creative voice kind of is. Before we begin, Jeff and I have our favorite question of the podcast. Jeff, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, it is my favorite bit. It shouldn't be really, should it? It should be the filmmaking part. You have prepared your 2 truths and a lie for us, haven't you? So yeah, fire away.
Right, I'm going to read them and try to be deadpan for all of them. I once flew my drone into a river during a wedding reception and had to go deep down into the river and retrieve it and film the rest of the wedding sopping wet.
True.
I love that. That's a great start.
Number 2, I have an alter ego called Kathy, and my darts name is the Duchess.
This is awesome. Okay.
And number 3, I once drove over a bollard leaving a wedding, getting stuck on top of it, which in turn blocked all the guests from leaving the wedding.
My God. I love these 3.
These are the best yet.
This is so good. I love it. Also, you said them. So for those that are watching on YouTube, they'll see your face. But for the ones listening to the podcast, you said that with a very straight face. So I'm like, Those might all be true. Okay,
might be.
We'll find out
Well,
at the end, Kaz. We'll find out.
I do follow the rules, so there is one lie in there.
Okay.
You know,
I sense a bit of clumsiness in your style, Kaz. There's a lot of bollards, there's crashing drones.
One of them.
Okay, we'll get the answers at the end, won't we?
Yeah, we will.
So, Kaz, talk us through. You've been shooting. You said, was it just over 3 years?
Yeah, I picked up my first camera 3 years ago. I've never used a professional camera. Yeah.
So, how did you end up where you are now? Talk us through like the very start and the origin of your story as a filmmaker.
So, this was meant to be a side hustle, essentially. I was working in TV, and I was TV is just so full on. You do short-term contracts here, there, and everywhere. And I was getting married myself, and I'd just been to Australia shooting. Well, not me shooting, but I was producing and directing a documentary series out there that was incredibly tough. And I think I was in the air for longer than I was filming. And I got back, and I was just, I was getting married, and I thought, I can't have this little control over my life as I enter the next chapter of my life, being married and stuff. And I'd never really been that interested in holding a camera, but I just thought, why not just give it a go? There are very few female wedding filmmakers out there. I thought there might be a bit of a gap in the market for it. I also had all the programs, the documentary series I'd worked on in the past had been people-led documentaries, emotional documentaries about people's stories and their family dynamics. And I loved that. I loved being in a very privileged space where people are showing them, their whole being to you, and you are giving them that, giving that safety for them to be themselves and open up. And so the kind of joy and the emotion of weddings really appealed to me at the time. So it kind of feels, it was meant to be a side hustle. I bought a cheap camera thinking I'll just sell it if it doesn't work out, maybe lose a couple of £100. And I filmed my first wedding, and I just loved it. And I thought, can I make money off this though? Can it be full time? So I assumed I'd do a bit of TV work, do a bit of wedding film work. Because in TV, the summer months can actually be very quiet. And I quite quickly worked out, when you film a wedding, the job really starts when you get home, and you've got to spend days and days and weeks, editing. And there was no time for the TV work. And I just loved working for myself, really. And so it was an accident. And I think I didn't think it through properly before I launched KAS Films. And I think that was a benefit, because I think if you think about something too much, you can quite quickly convince yourself and freak yourself out. And I think that with anything in life, if you start to, should I do this? And then you end up saying, no, I won't. But because I just thought, I'll give it a go. And then it just, it took off.
So what was the moment where you said, okay, this is no longer going to be a side hustle. This is going to be, I'm going to make a career out of this. Was it a particular wedding that you did, or was it what was there a particular moment, I guess?
Once I'd done 3 or 4, and I thought I really, really enjoy it. It wasn't just a one-off where I filmed a friend's wedding, and actually I enjoyed it because I love, that the bride is a really close friend of mine. And so I thought maybe I'm just enjoying it because I love her. And then as I did other people's, and I realized that actually the films are quite I'm actually maintaining it wasn't just a one-off fluke. And I just and actually each wedding was different. I think that was a concern for me when I went into wedding filmmaking is it going to be the same wedding over and over and over again? Am I going to get bored? But actually, with my style and what I'm trying to do, each one, to me anyway, feels really different, because I'm trying to reflect their individual personalities and shake it up each time a bit. Obviously, there are some threads that make my film similar, but I thought I can keep this interesting. And so, I think once I'd done 3 or 4 and realised I'm enjoying it, and I'm getting it right. And I'm not right. You know, there's obviously, I've still got so much to improve on, I think. Yeah. But yeah. And yeah, so
did
yeah,
you do any research before shooting that wedding? Because you were already married yourself at that point, right? And did you have a videographer at your wedding?
I did. I had the nicest chap ever called Alex Boundy, AWB Films, and he was so discreet. So I was aware. I wanted to copy his style of being discreet, because all the shots in my wedding film, I don't remember them being filmed, so they feel very natural to me. I do take a different approach to being discreet to him. He literally is not seen, whereas I am seen because I'm much more around, but I'm dressed like a guest, and I think I'm trying to be a guest, so that most people think I'm a friend of the couples.
Got you.
I've already met them before. I've met quite a few, you know. So yes, but in terms of research, I had contacted Aaron Kenny, who had filmed a few of my friends' weddings, and I had a couple of sessions with him, and it was very funny because after I won the Breakthrough Wedding Filmmaker of the Year award, Aaron went back through my messages with him, and it's actually comical reading my emails, because I said things like, ISO dash, is this important or can I ignore it?
Funny.
And because
so you were really green then, really green when you started. It's like you didn't even have an understanding of like photography or framing, or it was just the passion of capturing moments, but creating memories.
Yeah, obviously I had an understanding of how to make a documentary, because you know, when you were going through your backstory, I kind of got an idea as to how you became so good so fast, judging from what your previous job was.
Yeah.
I was just in Australia producing and directing a documentary.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a different type of filmmaking, I think, in that, you know, maybe not. I mean, we had crews, you know, there was quite a few of us, filming, and you know, each person had their role. You know, I was a producer, but then there was 3 cameramen, 1 sound person, you know, an assistant. So I think my bar for what I wanted to produce was very high. But when you're doing everything yourself, it's very hard to achieve that same look and product. And that was quite hard to let go of that, because I was getting into the edit and thinking, why, you know, but of course you're on your own. And you're working in an environment, with the environments I was working in, they were documentaries, but still everything was pretty staged. You know, you would get someone to walk up and down the street 5 times. And then obviously there were big moments. So for example, I was working on for about 7 years, actually, on and off, reuniting family who've been separated for years. And so 2 people who haven't seen each other for 60 years, incredibly emotional, were meeting, and you can't film that again. So there's a similarity there in that, you know, when brides are coming down the aisle, that is the moment, and you just have to let it be, and you can't get anyone to do anything like that again. And I've never asked anyone to redo anything.
It's interesting that I cut my teeth shooting fish. So I got into I bought my first camera because I was scuba diving and I wanted to capture what I was seeing, and it kind of really ingrained into me that kind of like, you know, you've got one chance, and if anything, I have the opposite kind of annoyance in that fish will never look at the camera and start to act a different way. So when people do it, I'm like, just be like a fish. You know? So that's it's interesting what kind of like things we bring in from when we started.
Yeah. And I think because I film in a documentary style way, I think when people book me, they know that I'm not going to get them to pose and play up for the camera. And so when I enter that space, I do, in the morning, I always go in and I just say to all the bridesmaids and the mum, and, you know, and the guys when I arrive with them, or the girl, and just say, by the way, I am just floating around capturing everything. Just don't worry about me. I mean, if there's anything, if you're picking your nose, don't worry. If I happen to be filming you, I'm not putting it in. Just don't worry. Just do your thing. If there's anything you want me to film, feel free to come and grab me or stage something. But actually, you enjoy your day, and I will just be floating around and having fun. Because I find if I don't do that, sometimes people are so unsure of what they're supposed to be doing. I think.
Yeah, that thing when someone's about to put the jacket on, and then when they see you point the camera, they start doing it in a funny, slow way.
Yeah.
I hate that. Just do it normally.
Yeah.
Like, is this okay? Is this okay? I'm like, yeah, no, dude, just put your jacket on. Like, it's fine.
Just do your thing. And then, when that classic, when you know you're being filmed and you walk weirdly as well.
Yeah.
Just no.
Kaz, how long did it take you to go full time? Whether it's like number of weddings or like a time frame, from that moment you started, how long has it taken you?
So it took a year. It took a year. I took a winter job, a TV job, and I just. So I picked up my first camera at the end of 2022, filmed a friend's wedding. 2023, I did a few weddings, but I was mainly working in TV. And then 2024 was my first year full time, and then 2025. So, But
I love your story because sorry, Kaz, I love your story because we know how many new filmmakers arrive on the scene every year. And actually for many other filmmakers, it is a side hustle, and they don't know whether they should actually commit. They don't know how to commit. I love that your story kind of shows with that commitment, with that will, you can make it happen,
Yeah.
As long as you enjoy it, because clearly you do, and that's something that you feel like is a calling, then it happens. I mean, it may make it sound easy, but I know there's been a lot of hard work on your part to kind of make it happen. But I love that your story demonstrates that it does and it will if you do kind of put your all into it,
Because the films won't edit themselves. And if you're working, doing another job in the daytime, then squeezing in the edit in the evening, I just don't know how. I'm obsessed with each wedding film. I mean, I literally get back after filming a wedding and we'll start editing in the evening sometimes, or the first thing in the morning. I just don't. I realized I just really loved it, and was gonna want to make it work.
Do you love filming as much as editing?
They're just completely different to me. Completely different skills. And I'm a natural. I'm actually an introvert. I'm probably a extroverted introvert, where I might on a wedding day come across extroverted, but actually I'm not. And so I enjoy the moments, when you're filming something, you're thinking, oh, that's so sweet. They're going to love that. That's going to be so important to them. But then by the end of the day, I couldn't just film. I do enjoy the editing and just sitting down quietly and piecing it together, working out how it's going to look, because I never know before I film. But going back to what you asked about with TV, one thing I do think has been really helpful with my background in TV is my experience of working with a commissioner and working out what they want. So moving from working on charity appeal films that are gonna try and I worked on Comic Relief's Red Nose Day and their appeal films. So my role there was finding stories and filming and working on stories where it would make people give money. Then you're working on a program for ITV and you've got a very specific audience, and you're thinking about what's going to keep them watching, what do they want to see. And so that, I think, that kind of sort of putting yourself in who's watching this and what do they want to see, not for me, not what I think will look most beautiful, or what will look, a certain for a certain, but what do the audience who and the same with Instagram. You know, what do my followers actually engage with? What do they want to see? And I think that's something I didn't, while thinking about my background in TV. I thought I did that naturally, but I think that's come from my TV work.
That is interesting. I think female filmmakers tend to be better at that. I think. I mean, I can't speak for all men, but I'm very guilty of just trying to make my camera work look good in the edit, basically. So I choose all the beautiful shots and all the the slick movements, and I've definitely been guilty, through the years of not putting enough emphasis on things that don't look great, but they will want to see anyway. So, and I in my experience, a lot of female filmmakers are just better at that. I don't know.
I think it's also a different style, because I'm trying to be like a fly on the wall. I'm trying to give a guest perspective a lot of the time. I can get away potentially within my films with a shot that's maybe not the perfect frame. It's not the perfect framing, and you can't really actually fix it in the edit. Do you know what I mean? I think.
Yeah, I think there's a style coming through now that is just so much more genuine. So I think with that mindset, you'll do well, because more and more the clients aren't bothered about the production value as much as anything else, because they're just so used to seeing videos of everything. And when I was kind of like first getting into this, it was at the beginning of the DSLR revolution, and it was just shocking, to the general public how much like a film everything looks. But now it's the opposite. Everyone's seen that. Everyone's seen DSLR videos and and better cameras, and everything's shot in 4K and like with shot in log and with perfect color grading, and it's people aren't impressed by that stuff anymore. And I think some of the very, very popular international filmmakers are doing very well because they're seeing beyond that. They're not bothered about perfect locked off shots, and they're more bothered about the personality coming through. So yeah, sorry, I'm waffling.
No, I definitely agree. I think there's a sort of Instagram perfection fatigue. And I've always, on my questionnaire, when people inquire, I've always had a question that says, what are you looking for? Like, what do you want your film to be like? What do you want captured? Because quite quickly, if someone did write, I want drone shots of me going through a forest and this, I'm just like, I'm just not the person for you, really, because that's just not.
No, because your drone ends up in a river, right, Kaz?
Exactly.
Oh, is that a clue there? That is a clue, isn't it?
To me, drone work is a great scene setter, but once I put it up I don't see any like people's faces in it. So I try not to put it up too much, especially over rivers. But what people, I don't know if it's because they're inquiring with me because that's my style, so they're saying that, and so that's why they've come to me in the first place. But pretty much every single inquiry I get is people saying they want authentic moments, very documentary style.
So that made me think of a question, actually, Cass, because your style is very much on the documentary. How do you? And I think I know the answer to this, but I'd like to kind of hear your thoughts on it. How do you decide what not to film? How do you realize when it's like a moment is it's not going to happen, or I wouldn't say it's not worth it, because two couples, all the footage, as we know, is worth it. But how, as like an artist yourself, how do you decide what you shouldn't, will not include, that kind of thing?
So once I've got an establisher, I won't go back to get any more establishers. To me, even if I see another pretty shot, if I knew it was important to them, that is where they got engaged, but I'll park it and just think, I'm actually now, I've got a lovely wide. there's a nice one, but I'm not going to waste that time. For me, I'm not going to spend that time. I'm going to go and find personal moments. And that's quite hard because you're like, oh, but that would be so pretty. But you're like, no. If anyone is, I've had it before where the bride is so stressed getting into her dress and actually she's going to do her dad reveal, but we're wasting time. I would leave because I did leave because it was so uncomfortable and she just didn't want to be filmed. And I had a quiet word with the bridesmaid and just said, I think I'm going to go. I don't think she really wants this captured. And she said, definitely a go. She, so anything that's, someone feels uncomfortable, it's just an immediate put your camera down, even if you could get a nice shot of the shoes at the same time. I remember when I got married and I don't love the shots of me and Nick posing, because all I remember is being posed.
Yeah.
It's not, but everyone's different and some people love that. And that's the thing, is that's why there are different types of wedding filmmaking out there. And that's why they all do well and get different bookings. It's because some people absolutely adore those shots and they look incredible and they think, God, I look amazing. Look where we got married. But for me, I wanted to see my friends and family having the best time. And so we're all different. But so anything that feels that it wouldn't have happened, it would have happened without, if something's happening without, that would have happened whether the camera was there or not, I film it. And if it's something staged for the cameras, for the photographer, I would consider not filming it. Because I'm thinking, well, what will they remember when they see this footage? If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It makes perfect sense. And that's definitely
what you mean, yeah.
Definitely part of the skill set of what we do is just reading the room, basically.
Yes.
That's as important as being a good camera person.
Totally.
You can so spoil a wedding if you misbehave.
Yeah. But some couples, I think, like it, so they want to be posed, and but it's exactly as you say, it's reading the room. There are some couples who would like it and there are some that don't, and I'm just someone who's attracting couples who just don't want that. And so I know, but there have been some sort of Phoebe and Pete, for example, the wedding film that you saw that was documentary, they actually did quite like, we went out doing couples photos very, very long, but they actually did quite enjoy it. So I was there for longer than I would normally do couples photos, because I sort of felt like that was important to them. But that's rare for me to be out filming couples photos for that chunk of time.
When that happens, and when you work with a photographer team, so say there's like a duo of photographers, and that whilst you're with the lead photographer doing the couple session, the other is getting all the nice candids, and you're like, I can't be in two places at once right now. This is so conflicting, It's one of the hardest parts of the job, isn't it? Is just that constant thing of, am I in the right place? And then am I on the right lens? But it's, and you've got to commit, haven't you? Because if you move around too much, you can't. How do you feel like because at the very beginning we talked about, you had one camera and the expectations were low because you were doing it for either friends and family. We didn't talk about price, but it's almost irrelevant to what I'm going to ask. But you talked about how expectation when you first started, there was none because you kind of made that clear. How do you then now grow into, it's a business and you've got a creative voice and you have set the standard for like what your work is and that kind of thing? How have you grown that, both creatively and like logistically, I guess, because you go from one camera to maybe wanting another angle for ceremony and speeches, that kind of thing. How do you retain your style and being unobtrusive and authentic, but still needing to kind of scale a little bit? How you do it?
Yeah, so I'm a little, I don't offer as much. The couples get a long film, their film will be about 15-20 minutes, sort of standard.
Mm-hmm.
And then they can have short films if they'd like them. But I'm, I have second cameras, but they aren't, so for ceremony, I don't give full ceremony because I'm not at the moment willing to compromise on getting more personal shots. So for example, my second camera will be on the groom, groom's reaction shot, obviously, but I'm now leaving that there or putting it off to the side to get reaction shots of someone important, and every time I go back I'll move it to someone else, you know. And I'm thinking, now I've got a third camera, whether I use that as a safety wide, but what I quite like to do is actually leave it at the front on the groom's side, focus on the groom's family to get their reactions throughout the entire ceremony, so that I could cut to them at pretty much any point if there's an emotional reaction to anything. If that makes sense. So I think what I'm doing is I'm using those other cameras, but I'm not using them. A little bit of safety sometimes, you know. It's very helpful to have a wide some wide at the back for the vows and stuff. But I think it's just using those cameras for on people. If that makes sense.
That's interesting.
But it's hard.
So you usually have everything at the front.
So no, so at the moment I've only just bought my third camera, my third A7S III. So I would normally have my back camera slanted down, like a little, slanted to the side, poking head out into the aisle for the groom, which Aaron Kenny taught me, which has taught me so much. And then I will film the bride coming down the aisle from the front. And now I'm actually starting to leave. My plan is to leave that back camera off to a side, so you can see the mother of the groom normally looking that way, because I like the angles. I like the angles that the guest would have. Like a guest would have that angle looking out to the side. And while it's not necessarily as beautiful as, the sort of the symmetry, I'm quite enjoying that guest perspective shot. So yeah, I guess the more cameras I'm using, I'm trying to keep putting them in places that make it feel a bit more immersive and fly on the wall. Because that's how I don't see, you guys are so good at seeing these epic, beautiful kind of using architecture and the symmetry, you know, and I don't, that takes a lot of thought for me. I naturally, even though I worked in TV, I think when I was working in TV, I was relying on these incredible DOPs to be doing that. I knew what to film and I knew what questions to ask people. You know, when I was casting and when I was interviewing, I was good at getting emotion from people. But I don't think I essentially, I think more in emotion than in visuals.
Yeah, I get that.
Does that make sense? It's the story, not the, which is, probably, hopefully not too many couples are listening to this. Thinking, oh, she doesn't have to film a good shot.
Kaz, we've got your previous couples on the call right now. We're going to be joined by Phoebe.
They want their money back.
No, but it's very interesting. Yeah, I love listening to that. It's really cool. And again, it just shows how confident you are talking about these things. Like after not being in the industry long, you have found your voice and you trust it. And like you know what you are, which I think there's a lot to be said about this, because being I'm going to call it an artist or a creative, it's really hard. That you talked about Instagram, this constant peer pressure, this constant, like this idea that it's like it has to be done a certain way. You trust your instinct on what you feel is right for your couple and for who you are,
Yeah, I'm just posting. Well, I would never post anything without the client, like the couple, seeing it. And if there's anyone else in the film that I'm posting that's really front and center. So for example, if I posted a bit of the father bride speech, I would check with them directly before I post it. But it's what I would feel comfortable with on social media. I think I'm trying to be very family friendly, very I don't know. And then that's something that's come from TV as well, is like duty of care. So, for example, when I had this viral video of the bride was coming down the aisle and her brother, who was just wonderful, was standing at the front with the groomsmen, and the brother of the bride, Ed, he just absolutely lost it. I mean, he was so emotional, and he was sort of doing this little wave, and it's got 17.5 million views or something on Instagram.
Wow.
So it went crazy. And my instinct was, I'd obviously asked them whether I could post it, but I went straight into, you let me know if you ever want it taken down. And, you know, because NBC and other platforms were contacting me saying, can we interview them? And I was saying, be very careful. We don't know what their interview is going to be about. And they just said, Katharine, just chill. It's okay. And because I think this, I feel when I make someone's wedding film that I've still got a duty, it's their content and a sort of duty of care to them.
Yeah.
So, and I think that must come from my sort of charity film work, where I'm aware of content on Instagram just blowing up. And while it's obviously great for us in terms of exposure, I think if you put something out where it could get negative, it's very rare, isn't it? We're filming lovely weddings and everyone's on, you know, just being lovely, amazing people. But if they were to get any backlash, I don't think that reflects very well on us. So it's kind of, I don't know why I've got there or where I've gone, but I think I'm more strategic than I thought I was with these things. Sorry, I've gone off on one. I don't even know how I got
No,
there.
this is good. This is really good. This is really good.
The kind of questions that are popping into my head while you're talking is like, I'm noticing that you've got like such excitement and passion and an enjoyment of it, and it makes me worry because I see myself, 15 years ago in you, and it's, I've had an amazing career, but it's gone up, it's gone down, it's gone up, and some of the harder times make me worry for the newcomers, and I think the importance of nurturing that passion outweighs anything else in your career. So I guess my question is, how many weddings do you do a year? And are you aware this kind of passion is the biggest commodity that you can offer? So when clients pay, ridiculous amount of money for your work, it's easy to think, wow, my skill set, is it really worth that? But what they're actually paying for is your passion. So you've got to really nurture that passion. So how many do you do a year at the minute?
So I did about 30 last year and it was way too much. This year I'm only doing 15 and next year I'm going down to 10. And I've got 6.
Perfect.
I booked 6 already. So I'm taking 4 more on next year, and I'm trying to be really firm with it, because with each wedding that I do, more and more they're 2-3 day weddings. I like to, for example, if a grandparent can't be there, try and film a message with them. And so more and more it's just taking up more time. I don't want... Last year it got ridiculous editing.
There's too many of that.
But as soon as you've just finished one and you're on to the next, and it just started to feel relentless. I mean, I loved each one, but once you've finished a film, I think you do need a moment to go, okay, let's just have like half a day to relax. And one of the things I've got it in, I think couples prefer, I think leaving it too long to deliver a film means that some people can feel disappointed when they've waited that long. I don't know. Or I like to try and keep them to sort of 2 months, 3 months max. Also because we've got it in our head. I've just finished a film that was the 14th of February and it was so great to do because I remember everything. But I appreciate your point, because I think you're right. What you're saying, I guess, is over time you can lose your passion.
Yes.
Or you're at risk of losing your passion. Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't nurture it, I've done years with 25 overseas weddings and literally flying from one country to another without going home. And at the time when you're booking it, it's like, yeah, I've made it, woo, and but you reach burnout very quickly.
Yeah.
And I know I've got some friends that have been in the game like almost as long as me. I've been around forever. And that's one of the main things we talk about, when we get together. It's like how to keep it fresh, and how to nurture that kind of excitement. And I've tried all sorts, I've shot weddings on phones, just to try and peak the excitement. And, I'm well into anamorphic lenses now. And it's kind of like it's a struggle to keep, that early excitement that you had. So it's, I think, sorry, this is turning into kind of like a mentoring session.
No, it's good. It's good though. You're so right, because I think what's kept me, it hasn't been very long for me. So that just, I do it for those messages you get on WhatsApp afterwards, where they're just like pictures of them crying and them just being like, I'm so excited to show my family. And that really, really, but that's what I loved before in TV work, when I would get calls. So I've kind of had those reactions are what keeps me happy. But maybe I'll get to the point in a couple of years' time where actually I'm like, oh, and so it's good. It's important to think about it. And I don't know how you keep it exciting. I do think there are very few female wedding filmmakers in the industry. So something I'm thinking about starting as a sort of something else is to mentor young women who might not think it's a career for them. And so I know that's not doing the wedding filmmaking itself, but seeing whether that's a side of the business to keep having, I don't know, just to keep growing in some way. Obviously my films will keep evolving, I think. But yeah, it's
how
a
do you think
tricky
your
one.
films will keep evolving, Kaz? In what way?
I am just loving guest holding cameras at the moment. I know that's quite trendy,
right? Yeah,
and that's what everyone else is doing. But I think using more guest participation potentially in a fun way is maybe
that would totally go
a route
with
to
your style, wouldn't it? It's basically like reverse engineer. It's the guest documenting the wedding. And that really puts you in the shoes of like you're like a guest at the wedding yourself, like you were saying at the beginning. That'd be cool.
Yeah, and it also
have you tried it at a wedding yet, or?
I did. The last wedding I did, it was really funny because they're getting content that we would never get. This friend was just saying, Nancy, on your happiest of days, I'm privileged to have walked into your bedroom this morning. Those sorts of content. I would never really, I don't think, have got that. But someone, because this chap obviously accidentally was staying at their house and just accidentally walked into her bedroom, and I just wouldn't get that content, and it's just funny and silly. So I did. Yeah, there's so many different. I think watching other people's films, and I'm not trying to copy anyone, but sort of taking little bits from what other people are doing and trying it out. And but for me, I want to lean into the guest perspective, very authentic.
I love that. The silliness there's not enough silliness in wedding films.
Yeah,
and I think I love the direction that the industry is taking now. That seems to be, taking center
I'm really
stage.
guilty of it myself. My films are very serious, like quite deep, and they're very like personal. But I agree that even in a wedding where there might be elements of fun, that's not the angle I'm going to take for my wedding film. That's not my sensibility to, how people have felt a wedding. Like I always look at moments that cut deep. That's just the way. But I agree that, which is what, I was going to talk about the festival in a minute. A lot of the films we've seen at the festival are more on that fun side, and it's dynamic and it's upbeat, and it's like, and I really appreciate that, but it's not the way I see a wedding, rightly or wrongly,
But do you think that's also, so do you think that's coming from you? And also, do you think it's because you're going with the speech? Yes. And this is why our wedding films will always be different. And that's brilliant. That creates diversity within the industry. We're not all copying we're not all doing the same thing, which is important. And yeah, and I think, because I've tried in the past to make a different style wedding film, having been mentored by Aaron Kenny. His films are absolutely beautiful and they're so cinematic and emotional. And I've tried that, but it doesn't. I just end up doing a less good version of his work.
You don't feel like it's yours, kind of, like it doesn't belong to you, kind of thing.
Exactly. Whereas I don't film when I'm making my wedding, when I'm doing my edit, I'm leading with the day. I'm not leading with the speeches, whereas he's naturally leading with the speeches. So he's telling the story of the couple with the day interwoven. I'm telling the story of the day. He's telling the story of the couple, with the day interwoven. I'm doing the opposite, and I'm leading with the upsync of everything that's happening in that day. And obviously, and to me, most the days are quite chirpy and a little bit of nerves, but actually like quite giddy excitement. And that's what I naturally, I think, enjoy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do you think your style will change over time? And has it changed in the short time that you've been doing it?
I think I'm using more natural audio than I was. But I think because I look back at the films, some of my earliest films, and they are quite similar in terms of what I'm focusing on and how I'm structuring my films. I've got a lot of work to do on colour grading. But I think it will.
Well, you say that, but the film for Phoebe, is it Phoebe and Pete? The colours are really good on that.
Really?
Nice and warm. And, I think it was good.
Well, I think it's part of your style. It is. Yeah. The perfectly balanced white balance and just the clean, fresh colours, and it's refreshing to see. It's a wedding.
That was all auto white balance.
There you go.
Well, it works. If it's not broke, you don't fix it. It works. No, there's no need to feel pressured to start colour grading your films in a different way. If it's working and it works, it's that kind of I guess it's kind of like a sitcom style, rather than a movie style.
Yeah.
So it works perfectly with weddings. I did it for a decade, and it's selling. And if you feel the pressure to do something because it feels more professional, then that's the wrong reason, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I think. Yeah. No, you're so right. I'm trying to. I like warm colours, because warm for the wedding days are warm. Warm, that evokes a warm, happy feel. But I am trying to keep the colours fairly similar. Fairly neutral, fairly similar to what they were on the day, to make it feel more real. But
and I know filmmaking companies that charge tens and tens of thousands that use auto white balance, so don't worry about that.
Yeah. No, I am starting to use manual white balance, but this is the thing, is because I've been doing this for a short space of time and I've been fully booked since I started, I haven't really ever had time just to sit down, and it's why I've used done mentoring with Aaron, is because I've needed these like intense periods of quick mentoring, because I haven't had the time. When you've got another booking and another one and the edits piling up, you just have to you learn on the job. You learn on the job. So I'll see. I don't know exactly where my films are going. I think they'll just evolve with the couples and the weddings, and what people want, I think, and what the days are like, because I think weddings are changing. Well, maybe it's just because I'm doing a different type of wedding now. They're getting bigger and bigger.
Can I ask you about your deliverables? I think you mentioned you do like a 10 to 15 minute film and no ceremony and no highlights. Is that right?
So I do a main wedding film, which I say is 10 to 15 minutes, but some of them have been longer. I then do full speeches. That's filmed on 2 cameras, now 3. I offer an additional short film. That's a 2 to 3 minute highlight film. And it's designed for Instagram, but I'm keeping them landscape because I think because no one's ever actually asked for a vertical one. But I do them for landscape because I think that vertical reels are going to date in the future.
Yeah.
And so I'd rather give them a separate, shorter film when they've got less time. So I do that as well. Then I've got Super 8. And then I also offer a doc edit, which is like 3 hours.
Wow, it's all the footage.
Yeah, I think, so
I love your view on vertical film because I'm not gonna lie, I stopped doing vertical reels pretty early, actually. Like maybe because I've been doing it 4 years as well. After 2 years or 3 years, I stopped doing. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
God.
I stopped doing vertical because but you talked about you mentioned a bit of my style. My style is very symmetrical. I like symmetry in my shots. The moment you crop the image, it's like, well, but the essence of my shot is lost. I just don't like the frame. And I hate the idea of feeding the algorithm. I know Instagram wants me to give it reels that are 60 seconds and that are portrait. I get it. That is just, I hate doing it. Like I first deliver a preview film, like we all have different ways of calling it, a trailer, teaser, whatever. My preview 1 minute. It is still for the couple ultimately. And then if it serves Instagram, amazing. But like the main deliverable is not for Instagram. I've always just hated doing. And it actually took me longer to kind of reframe stuff because he was like, oh, but that's not how I shot it. So what part of the image do I want to show? You know, it's so annoying. Hate it.
I thought it was an education to see the best social edit entries and who won. So a lot of the time cool. when I'm looking at them, judging, it didn't even register whether they're a vertical or landscape. And that, I think a lot of the landscape ones tend to go to like a 4:3 ratio. It tends to work. I think a 16:9 is a bit small on a phone.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fascinating to see. I mean, Scott's one that won. That's horizontal, and it's like a 4:3-ish.
I think it's a 4:3, yeah.
And that, and it's had, God knows how many thousand hits, for an actual, that's a lot for an actual wedding film, rather than just like a funny line. So yeah, that was an education for me. It made me kind of like sort of just realize that it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. Just whatever frame works for the film.
4 years? Can we talk about that? How is this possible? Here am I just being like, that's mental. I thought you must have been doing this for like 15 years at least. Not that you look old though.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Gaz. No, but that's why I've been asking you a lot of questions about like your creative voice because I knew early on like don't get me wrong, it's still a journey. I'm not where I want to be. Not that I know exactly where I want to be, but I knew what I guess I wanted my creative voice to be, which is, I talked about, I wanted to feel really personal and deep. And it's like, I'm not scared of admitting that I won't include a shot even if the moment is nice because I want the frame to be nice. And it's an awful thing to say, but that my style I've always wanted my visuals to do the talking. And if sometimes the moment works, but like the frame doesn't, to me, it doesn't, which is horrible. I get it in the context of a wedding film, but I'm just very particular like this.
You need to be more KAS, Joss. You need to be more KAS.
I know, but that's why I really appreciate other filmmakers. At the festival, we saw so many different styles and it is less about the clean frame. It is about the moment and it's authentic and you hear the real audio. And I was like, yeah, this is to me, it felt very refreshing because like, that is not how I'm wired. I am wired to just have the cleanest shots if I can. Unless it's sometimes like I've only got one shot of one person that I know is important. I need that person to be in the film. But do you see what I mean? It's like I've always just been very, very decisive and I've always kind of just known what I wanted my films to be like. And it's still a journey. But so I love talking to other newer filmmakers and understanding like their creative process, what their voice is, where they see it going,
Yeah. But so we've got similar in that we focus on what we know we want. But if I look at a shot and I think that will be so precious to that couple, then that goes in. Whether it might need loads of tinkering with, like in terms of the colours, because it might be overexposed, underexposed, whatever, or put it in black and white if I need to, but it has to go in, unless there's a similar shot later down the line where it's doing the same thing. But for me, I have to put that in.
Do you shoot log, by the way?
I'm starting to. I do for some corporate shoots that I do, but I haven't done it for a wedding yet because
You'll love it, Kaz.
Really,
Easy.
I'm scared
Very
of the low
forgiving
light.
to shoot in log. No.
But,
no. A lot more forgiving than standard, whatever Rec 709 or whatever profile you use.
Really?
It's so much more forgiving in terms of exposure. And grain looks good on film, Kaz. You know, a bit of noise, bit of grain.
Yeah. Yes.
Don't
I think
pressure,
no, I don't want to change you, by the way. I don't want to.
No,
yeah, I was literally going to say. Yeah.
My
I'm sorry.
No, my plan is I've got a early April, 3rd of April wedding, so it's quite soon, and I'm shooting log, but I'm bringing someone with me, Steve from Blue Ridge Weddings, just to have someone else who shoots log just with me. You know, I'm going to take the hit and just pay for it, but I just when people are starting to pay, well, when they're paying a huge amount, I just don't want to risk that it's them suffering. So, but that is my plan, is to just go for it now. Just go for it.
Nice.
But it's scary.
But yeah, no pressure from me. I'm sorry if it felt like I was pressuring you. I was actually more saying it is more forgiving. So don't, if that's what you worry about, don't worry about that bit.
Yeah. I'll come back and it'll be all your fault when I've got no usable footage.
That's right. Send me the bill.
Yeah.
Kaz, let's talk about we're approaching the end of the pod. I'd love your thoughts on the festival. So obviously you won Breakthrough Filmmaker of the Year. You were also shortlisted under the Best Storytelling category. What did it feel like to win Breakthrough Filmmaker? Clearly, we knew, because Jeff, myself, Laura and Pete were on stage. We were trying not to look at you when we were about to announce it, because obviously we knew. But I could kind of see you in the corner of my eye. I was like, even when your picture was on screen, you were like, it's me. You had no idea, which was so good for us to see, like just the joy in your eyes afterwards. But you were so shocked.
I was really shocked. I did, look at my image and not recognize myself, which is very odd. I think having watched the other, all the categories, because that was towards the end of the night, and I'd watched all these films that were so beautiful and so polished and so professional. And so I just didn't see myself as being in the mix, I guess. I just thought that then there were other people, but you know, that I think could have won it. Also, you probably could have won and you went in for it, but you 4 years. You know, like Alex from More Hill Media, I know he won the best sound design, so quite nice to share. But you know, but I think I was shocked. I'm really honoured and grateful to you guys for even watching one of my films in the first place. All of the judges are so incredible, so talented, and I think because I've been doing this job for couples, you know, just thinking about what they think about my films, and still I haven't given myself, because I've been so busy, I haven't really given myself to go, I've actually achieved quite a lot. I'm still trying to get better, and I'm still completely, I feel like the Jamaican bobsled team, just like completely out their depth, just like just doing just trying to keep up.
Yeah, don't we all?
And so and so it was a really special moment to be recognised by other filmmakers, because I'd never seen my films as kind of within a kind of award-winning style product, because it's so bespoke for me to the couple, that I didn't really see it as possible that it would be within a more broad. Does that make sense? It was like a kind of wedding film festival award.
Do you think you'll enter again next year?
I think so, definitely. I don't see why not now. I don't know. And I really did. I went up because I really wanted to meet other filmmakers and network and see who could work, who I could work with, who could work with me as I take on, bigger weddings. It would be
and
nice.
Did you
to
enjoy
have other people,
the international filmmakers that attended? Did you enjoy watching their work and meeting them, or are you more drawn to the British kind of cohort?
Because I started doing this job because I want to have to have a better work-life balance as well, and to not moving from TV where I was just here, there and everywhere, and to have more control over my life. I don't think I'm going to take on many international wedding jobs. I did one last year, and maybe I'll do one a year, but I think the international ones naturally look more interesting. They're sort of, they look more filmic, and if you add subtitles to anything, you're like, wow, this looks so cool.
It does, doesn't it?
But they looked amazing. But I think, naturally more interested in the ones that were sort of more similar to my kinds of couples, and thinking about how they filmed those weddings. But I think it's important to have an international element to the awards, definitely, because we can learn so much from the way that other people do things. And I'm filming a wedding in next month with Ben Tynegate. I'm pretty sure it's an American couple. You can't stereotype about different nationalities, but you can learn. British couples are quite different in my experience, to other international couples. They're just more closed in terms of emotionally closed, more shy in front of the camera sometimes. I thought it was really interesting to see both, and we can learn things from them. They can hopefully learn stuff from us.
So one of the international filmmakers we interviewed on the podcast, kind of rightly said it's all a perspective thing, because to him, so he's French, to him Manchester sounds exotic.
Yes.
It's a perspective thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, It's not exotic, is it, Manchester? But I did correct him on that. I did tell him it is not exotic. But I think it's just that to him, Manchester. I guess what he meant was like Manchester sounds like an exciting place architecture-wise to create a film. Because that's not what he sees on a daily basis.
I think also I didn't realise, because I've been so out the loop for so long on who everyone is and their films and their businesses. So I didn't realise, I think, watching that like the Wild Strawberry and Plus Two, I didn't actually realise. I thought they might be English. I thought they might be British filmmakers. I didn't really realise. I thought they were just international. They just filmed shoots internationally. So I think, I think having for the British Wedding Film Festival, I think I probably expected to see more films based in the UK with English couples, because it's so, I don't know how to say this, but I know, well, all the weddings I filmed with English couples, primarily, they are not, the types of speeches they do are quite different to an American couple, for example, and the way they don't really want to do couples photos and a bit more camera shy. It feels like a different. We're dealing with different people.
I hear you, definitely, and we are making changes. We're definitely introducing more British orientated categories, because it was our first time, and we kind of we didn't know what was going to happen, and we see we see the same thing you see. That yes. There's a section of the British kind of like art that isn't represented. So yeah, we're definitely making some changes.
Yeah, and I wondered, because with the documentary category, I thought I thought it was really hard. To be honest, you guys had the hardest job, because you don't. It's so subjective, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
And also you don't. You don't know the couples personally. So it's hard for you, I guess, to know for sure how and you weren't at the weddings, so you don't. Did you see it? Sort of, you can sort of judge the film, but it's hard. It's always going to be hard, and that's why I find it really hard to outsource. I'd struggle to outsource my wedding edits, because how can they really tell who's important, what's important? So it's a very, very, very hard job. So yeah, hats off to you guys. I couldn't do it.
Thank you. Can I tell you a little story?
Yes, please.
So the two super judges that we had from the movie industry, the round table of judges were kind of at a stalemate with a couple of things. So we thought, right, let's send this question off to the two super judges to see, final decision once and for all. And they both came back with completely opposite opinions about something. And we're like, oh, so that's how subjective it is.
Oh, that's tough. Yeah. It's anyway, really, really difficult.
I forgot to think about your two truths and a lie. I mean, I know you dropped a slight hint at some point about your aversion to droning.
Was that deliberate?
Yeah, it might have been a red herring.
Can you remind us of those three?
Yes. I once flew my drone into a river during a wedding reception and had to dive in to retrieve it and film the rest of the wedding sopping wet. Number 2. I have an alter ego called Kathy, and my darts name is the Duchess. Number 3. I once drove over a bollard at a wedding, getting stuck on top of it, which in turn blocked all guests from leaving the wedding.
God, this is the hardest yet.
Very hard.
God.
Feel free to ask any follow-up questions if you'd like.
Okay. I still think that the drone crashing in the water is a fact. Because we've all crashed a drone in the water. My only question is, like, did you actually try to retrieve it and just end up shooting the wedding soaking wet? That's the only bit I'm like, is this bit true? I'm going to say yes, I think that's true.
I think the opposite.
Do you?
Yeah. I think some things are so weird you couldn't make them up. And crashing a drone and getting wet isn't weird enough for me. So I think that's the lie. The other two are just like, what? How would you come up with that? Unless it was true.
Interesting. I'll say so Jeff says the first one is the lie. I'll say the third one, which is crashing into a bollard and basically blocking everyone. That will be the one that I think is the lie.
Okay, so I do have an alter ego called Kathy, and my darts name is the Duchess.
Love it.
And it's true that I drove over a bollard and stopped all the guests getting home. So
I'm definitely in the lead. I'm definitely in the lead with these, Joss.
But what I can tell you is that I know someone who did fly the drone into a river and film the entire rest of the wedding completely sopping wet.
Oh dear.
But I won't say. But I thought, how do I come up with a line? I thought, I might just going to tell someone else's truth.
Yes.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah. That's genius.
So I won't say who it is.
I love the bollard idea, though. That's so funny. To block everyone. That's hilarious.
It was honestly so embarrassing. So I obviously stayed too late at the wedding because I'm really bad at leaving weddings. I'm just thinking, there's something else. Then I chatting to someone, there might be something else. So I was leaving at midnight, which is when the guests were being picked up. And I'd parked my car and I forgot there was a bollard in front of the car. So I sort of drove over it and then I was diagonally stuck. So no cars could come. I was blocking the lane completely. And I thought, oh my goodness, no guests can leave, but I'm going to have to sleep on the bride. It was at the bride's parents' house, the reception. I'm going to have to sleep on the bride's parents' sofa. This is mortifying. But a taxi driver lifted the entire car up and we managed to move with people the whole car off the road. Yeah.
Amazing.
So it was quite embarrassing with everyone coming out of the wedding.
That makes me feel better
Jeff
about all my boo-boos. I'm just trying to think if I've done anything as bad as that.
It was pretty bad. It was quite bad. I think I'm not going to put you on the spot, but I think at some point you guys need to do your truths and lie.
Oh,
Hey, interesting.
I'm not going to put, because I actually did need to think yesterday what they could be. So, but at some point, I feel
Good
like
suggestion.
That's a very good suggestion. Okay. All right. Noted. Kaz, thank you so very much for joining us on the pod. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your knowledge and your experience. It's been awesome. And we can't wait to see your beautiful work again next year at the festival.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, guys. It's been so
Yeah.
nice chatting to you both.
You too. Thanks very much for coming on. It's been great.